Hey guys, this is Burt from Soft Tubes, and I'm back with another film review, and today I am doing Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is the follow-up to the 2014 American attempt at the famous kaiju franchise. Although the 2014 Godzilla film was a financial success and performed pretty well critically, it was disliked pretty mainly by more purists of the franchise for how little the titular monster was actually shown throughout the film. There's a lot of sequences where there's fights, but you never actually really see them. And basically, King of the Monsters tries to make up for all of that. Pretty hard, actually. So, much like John Wick is a vessel for basically choreographed fight sequences, King of the Monsters is pretty much purely a vessel for giant monsters thumping the crap out of each other. And it succeeds in what it succeeds. I think I said exceeds there. In what it's trying to do. And the moment it decides to let these behemoths just pummel into each other and let them loose on each other, it keeps it up and essentially just moves from one big fight to another big monster fight. But the one part of the film that really falters, like really badly, is those sections where it's trying to get from one big monster fight to another big monster fight. Which is basically when it decides to shift back to its human elements, and the human parts of the film. The humans are, and there seems to be a case in a lot of these sort of films, things like Transformers and stuff like that, they're the worst part of the film. And I'm a believer that you can make human characters work in these things and actually make them a really important part and have really important things to say. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that here at all. The dramas of these characters are just so forced. They're just in there for the sake of having these dramas, and they really just become a nuisance because they're keeping us from the action sequences of the film, which is what we're there to see. We're there to see Godzilla and King Ghidorah beat the freaking crap out of each other, and instead every so often the movie pulls us back to these human characters, which I understand from a financial point of view, like CGI is expensive, but if you're gonna do that, do it better. Don't make the human part of it so annoying to watch. It's just, it sucks because the acting is solid, but too much of it's just unnecessary. There's so much, like, they could have refined it down a bit and made it work better. And there's just way too many minor characters that are given too much screen time, despite not actually being given anything to do with that screen time. There is, like, it feels like they just kept throwing in minor characters to kind of be like, look how many people there are. Like, it feels very much like there's just characters for the sake of characters to kind of make things feel bigger when it didn't need to. It didn't need to make them characters. They could have been side things. Like, a lot of them essentially are just, like, soldier number one, but for some reason, soldier number one shows up like 15 times and has some weird, like, lines to throw in and some things. Another big issue I had with it in the acting, I forget the name of the actor off the top of my head. I wasn't prepared for this. I really should have actually looked this up. But the main character, essentially, of this film is, and I think that's part of the reason it doesn't work so well, is his entire thing is he's basically perfect. Like, he has one wrong idea, which is let's kill all the monsters, which isn't entirely a wrong idea. The movie never actually shows us that it's an entirely a wrong idea. It just tells us that we shouldn't kill all the monsters, that they are important to keep around. But every time he comes up with something, every time they need to get somewhere or find something out or anything, anytime the plot needs something, he just figures it out. And there's not even much of a logical sequence. Like, it's not even Independence Day where he runs, like, Goldblum just runs through a bunch of random crap until he gets there, but there is a mild connection in that. Like, he just literally comes out of nowhere a couple of times at least and just goes, this is, I know what to do. I know where we're going. I know how to get Godzilla on our side. Like, it's just random things, and it's always him. If you need those moments, give them to some of those side characters who are doing fucking nothing. Like, you have all these characters there, most of them are doing nothing. Give those moments to them. Don't just give all the moments to the one character. Otherwise, you are wasting our time. You've wasted our time by bringing us to humans and then introducing us and having us spend time with all of these different human characters when they're not actually going to do much to actually influence the plot at all. Like, they have moments, but those moments could have been easily replaced and done differently so we didn't have to waste as much time. So, the issues like that kind of keep popping up throughout the film. And I mean, when we're not with the humans, even when we are with the humans, the special effects are good. Which is really nice considering the entire film basically hinges on these at this point, especially because the human stuff is not good. So, the monsters don't always look perfectly realistic, but they don't always have to. We've already bought into this. We've suspended our disbelief. Everything is fine for us. Like, there are titans, these massive monsters running amok around the world. Like, we kind of get it. We don't have to, like, we're like, it's ridiculous. But I'm still buying into it, so I don't need it to be completely realistic for me to keep buying into it. And so they do a good job of converting the human in costume type stuff into CGI monsters. Like, they look pretty good. They look still kind of like they did in the costumes, but now they're doing something different there. And they actually do enough in the fights to justify the fact that they're CGI used. Because a lot of times you can end up with like the CGI fault because it's difficult otherwise. But then they don't do enough to actually justify how much CGI is being used. Here they actually try to do some stuff and have them move in certain ways that actually justifies the CGI it's using. The one issue there is there are several monsters in the movie. If you saw the trailers, it talks about how there's like 17 and counting monsters. You barely see, I think we see 5 monsters. But, hang on. No, we see, we see, we'll say 8. But 3 of those are completely unnecessary. So, literally they are just there to show you that throwaway line about, oh, there's 17 and counting, isn't entirely throwaway, that there actually are monsters. There's blips on a map, and then 3 extra monsters shown, essentially. Actually, it'd be 7 then, sorry. Because it'd be the 4 main ones we see, which are all original, like all the proper ones, and then there's 3 new ones, which I think are actually, I don't know if they're entirely new, I think they are based on ones, I just don't remember from the old films. I think there's one that seems really familiar to me, but they're just there, they don't really do anything, they're cutaway shots, and they don't add enough to really justify themselves. And it's another thing with this stuff in this film that doesn't quite justify itself. But the music of this film is truthfully what truly sold me on the film as I was watching it. There's a lot of usage of that old Toho music, like the Godzilla score and stuff. And I'm an old fan of the films back when, like, it was my main franchise, film franchise when I was in high school. I devoured those films. I didn't watch all of them, which is because I could only find certain ones. But all the ones I could find, I fucking loved. And so to have that old music, that was that nostalgia hit, and I was completely sucked in, and it was making it easier for me to ignore its faults, because I was just so sucked into that world through the music. I was also pulled in because there's early on in the movie, they used the song Wave of Mutilation by the Pixies, and it's particularly connected with me because I've been listening to the Pixies in my car and was listening to them that day, and in fact listened to that song that little day earlier on. And I was listening to them in the car a lot. So there was this moment where I was like, I actually had a moment where I'm like, oh, it'd be cool if there was like a song I knew in this. Like, it'd be really cool if there was a Pixie song, but it won't happen. And then there was a Pixie song, and I'm like, holy crap. But the song is actually important to the film, or at least the themes of the film, and that it reflects the environmental message that is used later on several times. It's sort of thrown out there. The only problem with that message is that it's not handled well enough, despite the fact that the film seems to think it's handled quite well. The film seems happy with it, but it's not really done that well, which kind of sucks. Really, for me, King of the Monsters just comes off as a flashier version of my favorite Godzilla film, Destroy All Monsters. Leaving the film, I realized that the music and the monster fights blinded me somewhat. left feeling happier about this film than it probably deserved. Especially thinking back, a lot of the flaws of the film started sort of popping up, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess there were some issues here that I was willing to overlook initially. It's an enjoyable experience, absolutely. Like, if you love giant monsters fighting, you will love this film. You will really enjoy this film. Except when it gets to the human stuff. Because unfortunately, this film just doesn't focus on what makes it good enough. It keeps on getting distracted by stuff that it wants to be good, but aren't quite at the same level. So unfortunately, I have to give it 3.5 stars. And that's simply because it would rather spend more time, or too much time, with its boring human characters, taking us away from the monster fights that are actually why we're there and actually what's good about this film. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you have your own thoughts about the film, leave them in the comments below. I know a few people are going to disagree with me. I know a lot of people who are really, really into this film. But I've already sort of given my reason why I had to kind of go lower on it. I wanted to like this film more even as I watched it, but unfortunately there were just too many issues to give it a high score. But I still really enjoyed this movie. It's one of these weird things where when I do reviews, I sort of have to weigh between how I personally felt about the film and how the film actually was, about how good things were done in the film, technically speaking, and things like that. And this was one that really was a struggle for me, because I really wanted to give it 4.5 stars, but I had to bring it back. It just isn't quite there. So if you didn't agree with me, you dislike this video, you can hit the dislike button. But if you do like this video, even if you did disagree with me, I do like the being able to be like, yeah, you disagree, but that's cool. You can hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel and you like film reviews and reactions and games, I just downloaded a scary game, which I might be recording later tonight. Ooh. I gotta work out my setup because I don't have a gesture at the moment, but I am gonna get back to Oxenfree, but this has popped up, and this is actually a good game for sort of getting back into doing gameplays as well. So I'm gonna try and give that a shot. But anyway, guys, that's sort of stuff that's coming up. I got a lot of catch-up reviews, reactions again this week, and also there'll be new stuff, of course. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. For me, Brightburn found itself working best as more of a foreboding, tension-building type of a film, rather than a straight-up horror. So there's several jump scares in the film. They appear at different points, and, you know, it's typical kind of jump scare thing. Thing was, I didn't get affected by it.